Like the study of science itself, the study of evolution has a history based on past discoveries. Sit back and enjoy as we further our discussion of the theory of evolution. You may have learned about Charles Darwin in other science classes you've taken. He's sometimes called the father of evolution. Darwin proposed natural selection as the mechanism for evolution, and he also proposed that speciation occurs via descent with modification from common ancestors. Discoveries in science since Darwin's time continue to shape current understanding and application of evolutionary theory to the study of biology. Darwin was influenced by and built on the work of many other scholars as he developed his theory of evolution, many names of which I will not even attempt to pronounce. Darwin gathered a large body of data and began asking questions about the patterns he saw emerging from that data. Darwin's further study of his data led to hypotheses about what the patterns he found meant. After exhaustive study of his data, Darwin proposed that natural selection leads to changes in species over long periods of time. Organisms with desirable traits will live longer and have more offspring. Darwin further proposed descent with modification, meaning life on Earth today has descended with some changes from shared ancestors. This gives rise to speciation. An evolutionary tree, also called a phylogeny, indicates which ancestors gave rise to which descendants. We will learn how to read and use the phylogeny during class this week. Advances in technology made continued learning about genetics and evolution possible. Several lines of evidence now support the theory of evolution and the concept of descent with modification. Fossils play a key role in the study of evolution. The fossil evidence allows biologists to compare structures of vertebrate ancestors to modern-day vertebrates. Radiometric dating is how scientists can date the age of individual fossils. This shows the rate of decay of radioactive material present in any object. Scientists can use that data to find the absolute age of the fossil. Comparative embryology is the scientific comparison of different types of embryos. Vertebrate embryos develop in similar ways, suggesting that vertebrates share genes derived from a common ancestor. You've learned that the development and differentiation are under the control of your genes. Similar patterns in early embryonic development suggest that vertebrates share the genetic heritage of a common ancestor. Comparative anatomy reveals patterns of commonality between species and their physical structures. Biologists look for similarities in structure that might suggest shared ancestry. At first glance, an elephant and a chicken don't seem to have a lot in common. Biologists, however, might look at an elephant and a chicken differently than you do. From the perspective of comparative anatomy, similarities in the skeletal structure of an elephant and a chicken suggest that both species arose from a common ancestor. Evidence from fossils indicates that the ancestors of vertebrates had many of the same structures of animals that live today. Over many years, continued modification of bones resulted in somewhat different shapes as populations of different species were adapted to different environments. These are referred to as homologous structures. You can see an example of descent with modification in the horse. As the ancestors of horses faced new environmental challenges, natural selection resulted in bones that were better adapted to the new environments. Analogous structures do not have a common ancestor, but have adapted to similar environments. They have similar structures that have similar functions. Homologous structures have structural features with a common evolutionary origin. Analogous structures are structures that do not have a common evolutionary origin, but are similar in function. Another line of evidence supporting the idea of descent with modification are vestigial structures. These were believed to have a function in ancestors but no longer have a function today. Examples include wisdom teeth, the human tailbone, the appendix, the whale's pelvis, the inside corner of your eye, and flightless birds. For example, flightless land birds such as the ostrich and the emu have wings, even though those birds don't fly. Their ancestors did, though. The ostrich and the emu descended from flying ancestors. Since these structures are not harmful, they have not been eliminated through natural selection. The theory of evolution states that an organism's characteristics, including its DNA sequence, arose from similar characteristics in the organism's ancestors. The amount of difference in DNA is a test of difference between two species, therefore showing how closely or distantly related they are. When two or more species share chemical characteristics, the relationship may indicate a common ancestor. Scientists determine relationships between species by comparing the structure and sequence of their proteins. Remember, we've recently learned that DNA is the basis of protein synthesis. Changes in amino acid sequence accumulate over time, and more changes accumulate as more time passes. That evidence suggests that organisms that have many differences in their amino acid sequence must have diverged longer ago than those who have very similar amino acid sequence. For example, there are only 3 differences in the amino acid sequences of the cytochrome C of a pig and a dog. The amino acid sequences of a pig and a yeast organism have 45 differences. This data suggests that pigs and yeast diverged much longer ago than pigs and dogs. Comparing the amino acid sequences of similar proteins in different organisms helps scientists piece together evolutionary relationships. This diagram, a phylogenetic tree, represents similarities in the cytochrome C amino acid sequence of several species. Analysis of cytochrome C in a human, a rhesus monkey, and a chicken, for example, show that rhesus monkeys are more closely related to humans than to chickens.